Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score Podcast, presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, jam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, cam, slam, jam.
Subscribe to us on Podbean, the Apple Podcast Store, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at TheFinalScore35 and TikTok at AGSpartanFan35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Yep, it's that time. It's feast week, folks. Thanksgiving is on the horizon. Crazy. The year's gone by so fast. The final week of the regular season for college football. Week 12 in the NFL coming up. College basketball's hot and heavy. NHL, NBA, same thing. Getting in the thick of it. It's a great time. Podcast number 99. We're almost to 100. That's pretty wild. We'll start off like we always do. Podium. I'll go first. Something that's been bugging me, just watching football all year long, and not just this weekend, watching my team choke for the umpteenth time in my life on just being stupid. It's teams. I'm tired of it. Teams being conservative when they're winning. Coming out at halftime and changing up the game plan, not being aggressive, being soft when you're. I'm tired of it. How often? Yeah, I get it. Like, don't be as aggressive, maybe taking big chances, but playing prevent defense, running the ball every time, stupid play calls. I've seen this bite so many teams in the butt. This year in particular in football, just being stupid in the NFL, in college, you name it. Teams being conservative and not staying in attack mode, just falling back. Oh, we've got this in the bag. I'm tired of it. It's going to cost teams games. I can't stand it. It's happened over and over again. Michigan State, it happened the other day. Illinois, it kind of did. They kind of got conservative at the end of the game with play calls, doing different stuff than what they're doing. Lost to Michigan. So many other times it's happened this year. It's ridiculous. Tired of seeing it. Can it please stop? Probably not. These teams, they're just stupid. These people are really stupid with their game management. I don't get it.
All right, for mine, I hope you listened closely to our intro, because probably not given our audience, but some of you might find this offensive. I honestly really don't care, because it's our podcast and it's how I feel. This broke a little bit after our podcast last week about how the U.S. men's national soccer team was replacing the red, white, and blue emblem as part of their U.S. with the rainbow flag, the LGBTQIA whatever plus. But at least that's what they claimed, and they were making a statement about that. I call BS. Here's why. There is a time and a place for politics, and the sports arena is not it. It's not it. The World Cup is not the scene to make a stand for something a very sliver of people believe in. Human rights, I get it. I understand it. Maybe that's at the crux of this. This is a very minority thing for a very minority group on a stage that is not made for that. You can at me all you want. I don't care if you want to talk about elections. I wouldn't be for it. I don't care if you want to put a Ukrainian flag on everybody's jerseys. I wouldn't be for it. I'm tired of the rhetoric. I'm tired of the grandstanding and the politics being played into sports. Sports is one of, or should be, the last pure bastion of sanity that we have in this world. Political free. Shut up the LeBrons. Shut up the gay pride flags. Like they forced guys to do it in Tampa Bay, and some players, during baseball season, some players said, no, I'm not going to. I'm tired of having your politics shoved down my throat, but when I have an opinion on the matter, I'm the asshole that has no heart for other people. Screw you. I'm glad you tied today against Wales. Soccer's a wuss sport anyway, and the fact that you're going to tread on the very red, white, and blue and what this flag stands for a pride flag, makes me nauseous and I want to throw up all over the place. All right, Ryan.
Yeah.
Who are we flagging this week?
This we always do a tee up. Throw the flag. We're changing. We're doing the hero of the week, and this guy, I don't know his name. I just saw this on Twitter earlier. An Iranian soccer player playing the Iranian national anthem. Wouldn't stand for it. Wouldn't sing it. Good for him, because Iran stands for nothing good. Just like the previous thing you said, it's not. It's he brought politics into it in a good way. Kind of flipping what you said, actually. Because his country does awful things to their people, to women, to other countries. They're nuclear. The way that they just treat people in general is awful, and he doesn't stand for it. And there's a good chance that this guy goes missing randomly after.
Yeah, I was going to say the bigger thing
Cup.
would be not even showing up and playing for your country in that case, but he probably had no choice. Otherwise, he'd be dead, and now he might be dead anyway. So.
But good for him for standing up for what he believes in and not going with the majority, because a lot of people don't stand up to that stuff, especially in countries like that. I mean, Qatar, they're doing this sport washing stuff. Unbelievable. I don't even know why the World Cup is there.
Trying to sell us on ads what a great technologically and whatever
Behead
advanced
women.
place that is.
They won't. It's disgusting. It's a disgusting thing, but that's a different topic.
But that's a sign about how the rest of the world stands for the things that they think are cool, and sport washing is one of them. Just like the Live Tour stuff, ridiculous.
Yep, absolutely. Same thing. It's sad, but it's true. The evil in sports, there's a lot of good, and then there's some bad, and that's the bad. But 4 downs. College football week in review, week 12. Wow, 1 week left of the regular season. That's pretty wild. Where did the time go? We'll start off with the Big Ten. Let's just go Wisconsin, Nebraska here. I honestly
Boring.
didn't see anything. I just know Wisconsin came back and won.
Nebraska had like
Nebraska's-
152 yards of total offense or something like that. Ridiculous.
Yeah,
Let's
they're
see,
not.
what was
they're
it?
not good.
171 yards of total offense. Blew a lead, had a lead. Wisconsin came back and won 15-14. I believe they're probably dead in the water for the Big Ten championship in the West anyway, but probably, maybe, good, bad, or otherwise, sealed Jimmy Leonard the job.
Yeah, that's the word on the street is that's going to be his job next week after the regular season's done. Good for him. We talked a lot about did he earn it, and apparently he did. So good for him. Northwestern Purdue, another snoozer, 17-9 I think was the final.
Mm-hmm.
What is going
Northwestern
on?
almost outgained Purdue. Purdue's offense is, well, that minus against Illinois has been kind of stuck in neutral lately. But they still, I think it's down to Purdue and Iowa, right? In the West.
Iowa's in the driver's seat.
Iowa plays
Pretty
Nebraska.
wild.
Purdue plays Indiana. Who's more? Iowa has the tiebreaker, so Iowa has to lose and Purdue has to win. They both have equally crapola games against crapola teams. So I don't know who's more likely to pull the upset, Nebraska, because I think that's at Nebraska, or Indiana, which I believe that's at Indiana. So no, it's at Iowa. So
it is.
Color that unlikely. Purdue is just going to barely finish outside of it. Would be my guess.
Yeah,
but we'll get to picks in a minute.
Too bad. But yeah, that game sounded boring to me. Michigan, Illinois. All right, Michigan, you're 11-0 with your cupcake, your 8 home games, your cupcake
And your
schedule.
help from the officials.
You got, if you haven't seen it, I mean, on the key plays, there's Michigan guys blocking the receiver.
They had a clear
blocking
drop pass
downfield.
that they called complete.
It's ridiculous.
Pick play.
You can't tell me the refs are.
And Bielema called him on it. And
Good
you know
for
what?
him.
Good for him. Because love him or hate him or whatever in between on Bielema, I kind of called him out a couple weeks ago on the pod for his pissing and moaning after the Michigan State game. But he had some legitimate beefs. Starting, shock. Tell me if you've heard this one before, with the tunnel issue at Michigan. His team was supposed to be getting out. Michigan started to let themselves out, and they held Illinois back, let Michigan go first. Like, we're the bullies. This is our house. You'll do what we say when we want to.
Shocking.
When is this problem going to be addressed? Never. There's a reason Michigan State can't even have a full pad practice for 4 weeks because they're down so many players on defense because they're just dragging their feet on this supposed earth-shattering investigation that's going to unturn maybe one arrest, maybe, for
Maybe.
both sides, if there is one. 3-4 weeks later, ridiculous. Just pure stupidity. I saw a lot of things about how the fix is in. They wanted this for Michigan Ohio State Game of the Century Part 2 to 2006 when it was 1v2. This is 2v3. Blah blah blah. It's good for TV. It's good for fodder. It's good for rivalry. I'll tell you this much. I don't know why TikTok serves up every Michigan puke fan on my feed, but every single one of them gets blocked. So TikTok, maybe stop sending me Michigan fans, slobbering all over Jim Harbaugh's knob about whatever he's gabbing about and, preaching about at his freaking podium when he's so full of it. He sounds like Joe Biden up there. I'm just want this game to be over with so we can just move on.
Yeah, getting back to the game, JJ not good again. I mean, he had 200 yards, but he had to throw it at the end because no Blake Corum.
If Corum can't play this week,
no Edwards.
We're not in the preview. I mean, they can't.
They couldn't run the ball without him.
Yeah.
Their defense is solid, but Illinois ran the ball pretty well on them. They can't throw worth a crap. Has Michigan's secondary been tested all year? Absolutely not. I don't think that they can cover any of Ohio State's receivers, but I digress. Moody saved them. He's a great kicker. I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Lions uniform, honestly, because he's pretty money. Credit to him. It's just the same crap with Michigan, squeaking by. And Rick Neuheisel earlier on Full Ride made a great point. He said, "What is Michigan without Blake Corum? How are they any different than Iowa?" In reality, a great defense and
a more highly touted quarterback.
A quarterback can run a little more.
That's it.
Nothing. It's not much different.
Yeah, really. Who has he had to beat with his arm? And if he has to do it this week, I'm sorry, this is not going to happen.
No.
Not going to happen.
Ohio State, Maryland. You knew this was going to. I don't even know why.
Maryland outgained Ohio State by.
They always play them tough. It's weird. It's really weird.
Some teams have those nemesis, especially on the road, and that's one for whatever reason for Ohio State. They almost lost there a couple of years ago. I think they almost lost there 2 years before that. Maryland kind of close to pulling one of those big upsets, and then Ohio State pulled away late. But it was kind of one of those weekends in college football of
it was
a bunch of type of games with the top-ranked teams, including some teams, shooting themselves right out of the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to in a couple
Penn
minutes.
State, Rutgers, not even close.
Penn State's outscored the last two
good.
opponents 85-10. That does not bode well for Michigan State this weekend.
Iowa, Minnesota. Now I feel for Minnesota here because Ibrahim he's a great running back.
263 yards
263
rushing? They had
yards
399 total. And he had 263.
He's a great running back. I hope he's successful in the pros. He's a stud. I feel bad for him. Iowa squeaks by again with no offense. And they're in the driver's seat, which is ridiculous.
And this is a great argument, and it's not going to happen next year. It'll happen when USC and UCLA come in for why the Big 12 does it right, which is not divisions, and it's the best two, or Pac-12 for that matter too, and it's the best two teams. The SEC, you can argue both divisions are pretty strong, and so there's good balance there. But in the Big 10, there is historically no balance between the East and the West. And whichever of Ohio State and Michigan makes it to the championship game is not going to be tested at all because both teams already beat Iowa, and Iowa's in the driver's seat for that. Again, unless they lose to Nebraska, they're in. So
yeah, ridiculous. Let's talk about. You want to do the rest of college football, then do the shit show?
Yeah, let's do the rest of college football.
Okay.
We know what we all don't want to talk about, but our
Georgia,
in the room.
Georgia, not impressive, but they won. They're 11-0. Just another one of those games. TCU, come back again.
What a great fire drill! If you've not seen that, do yourself a favor and look it up. Kind of a questionable play call before that to even put themselves in that situation, but they were so calm, cool, and collected, down two, to pull off that fire drill field goal to win. I saw a great TikTok of a girl who was POVing herself, getting ready to rush the field for beating the number 4 team in the country, and you just see her face go ghostly white, and her jaw drops as TCU makes the field goal to win. It's pretty funny. So good on them. That's a well-coached, special situation, and they've got, who do they have this week? They have one more game, and then they have the Big 12 championship, which will probably be a rematch with
They
Kansas State.
have-
They win both, they're in.
They have Iowa State.
All right, now Iowa State's been known to
Not bad,
trip people
not a
up,
bad
but
team,
still.
it's a home game for them.
LSU got a win. That's good for them. Clemson hanging by a thread. North
Yeah.
Carolina had a very outside shot. They're out. They
Yeah,
shot
they
themselves in the
choked
foot. Lost
on
to Georgia Tech.
applesauce. South Carolina just bludgeons Tennessee 63 points.
And Hendon
And
Hooker
Hendon Hooker's
tore his
out.
ACL anyway, so it's probably a good thing that Tennessee's not in.
Yep.
But still,
USC, great win over UCLA. Classic game
Yep.
in the Rose Bowl, 48-45.
yeah, they beat Notre Dame
And then win
the
they're in, I think.
Pac-12,
They
which will
have
probably
to
be
be.
against Oregon, right? They'll be in, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they'll have to.
I think they'll get the fourth spot, and if TCU wins out, they'll be the third spot. But there's a lot of stuff to go in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, really wild.
And you want to? Chris sent me this last week. Not quite in time for the pod, and this may have changed a touch because it changes week to week. But you want to talk about teams for that fourth spot that have a loss or even two losses in the pecking order. Again, some of this is now moot because some of these teams lost. But going into last week, Tennessee was number 3. So what was your argument going to be if Tennessee won out for keeping them out of that fourth spot, right? Doesn't matter anymore. They're out. LSU with 2 losses is number 11. You got to think if they win this week against Texas A&M and then they beat Georgia in the SEC championship, they're going to probably get in, right? Like, and their strength of schedule is number 11. So yes, they got routed by Tennessee, but they've got some big wins in there, and they still have an outside chance. TCU is number 38. Again, they win out, they're in. Georgia's number 44. They went out. Georgia, unless they lose this week to Georgia Tech and lose in the SEC championship game, there's no way they're not in the top 4. So they can lose one and still get in. Clemson, number 55. That'll be a little bit diminished playing North Carolina in the ACC championship. They have a very, very outside chance. They need some things to happen. Ohio State's number 60, USC number 65. USC's only losses by 1 point to a pretty good Utah team. North Carolina was number 75, obsolete, doesn't matter because they're out of it, and Michigan number 82. So, like, if it had come down to those teams and all things remain the same, you would have been really hard-pressed to convince me that Michigan deserved to be in that fourth spot if they don't beat Ohio State this week and win the Big Ten championship, for sure. But I'm trying to think, other games in college football last week.
Navy knocked UCF out of
A week after almost coming back against
New
Notre
Year's
Dame.
Six contention.
Just kind of a crazy week for just
Oklahoma wrecked Oklahoma State.
no like absurd upsets, but just kind of some of those games that were like, huh? Which leads us to the biggest of them all.
It's just
Michigan State,
complete
slow
dumpster.
start, gives up a big kickoff return, gives up a phantom touchdown because I've watched the replay several times. He kicked up a chunk of white. He was out of bounds. How the refs still get that wrong with replay is beyond me. Anyway, they spot Indiana 7, and then they dominate the rest of the first half. Well, let's fast forward all the way to the end, stats-wise. Going into overtime,
Dominant.
Indiana had 7 yards passing. Now, they were running the ball pretty well, but they had 7 yards passing. So, like Ryan said about conservative, Michigan State, the east upper deck was empty because there was a frozen pipe, and if you were there, you can see why. It was crazy, and the snow was drifting and blowing like crazy up there anyway. But the crowd was decent considering the weather was so crappy. Student section was pretty full in the bottom. As soon as we made it 24/7 late in the first half, 3/4 of the student section checked out. A big other chunk of the fans checked out. They figured the game was over, and the team checked out, figuring the game was
Yep,
over.
sure did.
Indiana, in a
Again.
series of a couple plays, had a 79-yard touchdown run untouched on a bad decision by a corner for Michigan State. They had a 90-ish, 90-plus-ish kickoff return for a touchdown that you saw coming after the first one of the game that went 50 yards. They threw a pick in the red zone, so they gave up 17 points right there. They claimed they were playing to win the game at the end with a touchdown, given what happened at Illinois. They managed the clock better, I'll give them that. But they settled for a field goal that they didn't even get to the middle of the field. They tried it from the left hash, which I would argue a left-footed kicker should have
It didn't even
a better bet from the left hash because then he can kind of pull it a little bit. But no, he misses a 22-yard effing field goal to win it, and then gets one blocked in
Because of a
overtime
bad
after
snap.
a bad snap.
Again.
Michigan State gets bailed out on blocking a kick, and you're like, okay, all right, this is going to happen. We're going to get bowl eligible. We'll be 6-5. Great, wonderful, excellent. Crappy the way it ended, but we'll take it. And then Indiana all of a sudden throws a pass down to the 3-yard line. So they gain 22 yards on one pass play. 3 times the passing yardage they had all game. They score, got to go for 2. They get to 2. Peyton Thorne proceeds to basically throw into coverage
He threw
3
it.
times in a row against Reed. Now, once or twice could have been interference. I understand the why we were mad that there was no call, but there was no call. He didn't look anywhere on the field except for to Reed. And the last throw was like an impossible throw. Like a Charles Rogers could have barely made that play in that situation. And Michigan State completely screwed themselves. They now have to go to Penn State where they're like something, probably a 17, 18 point underdog. Penn State's playing great. Penn State's playing for a New Year's Six bowl game. Michigan State still is without the services of a ton of key defensive players. They're fighting, and I give them credit for the way they're playing defense with the hand that they've been dealt. Peyton Thorne is just not good. Yeah, he made some
average.
better plays last week. He had 298 yards. So you look at his stats, you'd be like, oh yeah, he had a good game. He had 2 touchdowns. He had 1 pick, which was dropped, threw it in a bad spot, whatever. You could kind of blame the receiver. I get it. He made some nice throws, minus in overtime when he scrambled nicely and he had Trey Mosley open and overthrew him, made him dive for it, which would have given Michigan State a chance to begin with in the first overtime.
I'm done.
It's so frustrating. Like it was so cold sitting there, but really made worse by watching that unfold. Like at the end of the day, you don't feel too bad in a really cold or crappy weather game if you have a good performance and you win. Michigan State has underutilized its weapons all year. In that game, they had probably their best rushing game, ground game, period, in a couple of years. 2 guys over 100 yards. The offensive line, which started a redshirt freshman at right guard and started Baldwin, who I think is a redshirt sophomore, right, at left tackle. The line looked good. They kept Thorne clean. Indiana really didn't get a whole lot of pass rush, so to speak. They opened up some pretty good holes on the run game. Like, finally some things came together there. And, this kid Dunn, who came out of nowhere in all the injuries, had a sequence of plays on defense.
Yeah, he played pretty well.
Where he stuffed the run play, then he made a great athletic play on a sack, in a spot that was giving Michigan State momentum. But they came out and they ran the dumbest plays again. Why they don't get under center on 4th and 1 and push a quarterback sneak forward, I will never figure out why anybody doesn't do that. You have all the advantage of a legal push from behind. Like the season's not technically over, but like
It's over.
You have to evaluate if you don't give a good. Okay, some of the position coaches I'm not so worried about. I think Michigan State's got good receivers, and like a guy like Keon Coleman has developed nicely. I think the receiving game is fine. I think the running backs are doing well. I think the offensive line actually now that they've got the right guys, they've gotten a little bit better, which is good. Jay Johnson has got to go.
Got to go. Yesterday.
The special teams coach has got to go.
Ross Ells is trash.
I would say Scotty.
He's got to go.
Iffy, but probably has to go. I don't know why. Again, lack of depth is the only reason I can think of why they went away from the 4-3 again, especially when Indiana was doing nothing but running. Like
didn't run it once.
They were running. They couldn't pass, and we ran the 4-3 one time that I recall in that game. So Hazelton's probably got to go.
Tucker's got to maybe got to go.
He's got to look in the mirror. He's had a lot of injury issues, so I cut him a little bit of slack. And they gave up 29 yards passing. So not that they tackle all that well or whatever, but like to me, it's the coordinators, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. All 3 have got to go. What's the likelihood of that? Less than a 25% chance.
There's no
less than a 5% chance all 3 get fired. Less than 25% chance 2 get fired, and I would say less than a 50% chance 1 gets fired. To be honest, and that's going to be a real shame because these guys make a lot of money, and they are not performing at their optimal. Michigan State's play calling is a big culprit for why they lost that game. They
Trash.
called themselves out of it in the second half. Now, yes, Barker dropped on the very first series a wide open third down that would have been an easy first down, and who knows where that goes, and maybe you punch the game out of the gate. But how you don't adjust and go to a 4-3, I mean, like the continual stupidity on fourth down, it's really, really, really hard to take. And I know we're not at the previews yet, but like I'm hard pressed to find any way that Michigan State can win this week. I mean, I'm hard pressed to find a way they cover 18, 17, 16 and a half, whatever the spread is that we're going to end up going on. Like, how? I mean, Peyton Thorne is the most average quarterback Michigan State has had in a long time. Like, you made a great comparison to Brian Lewerke. Brian Lewerke had an awesome sophomore year. They went like 10-2, right? Or 10-3. Had a great. He could run the ball. He was pretty good passer, like good. And Thorne last year could do a little bit of that. Run the ball, good accurate passer, used his weapons well. He's regressed. He doesn't make the simplest of throws. He overcomplicates those simple throws. Yeah, does he make some big plays? Is he smart in terms of maybe checking us in and out of plays? Yeah, okay, I'll give him credit for that, but I don't care if you can check us in and out of plays if you can't make the freaking throws. Like, I think you have to seriously evaluate your coaching staff. You cannot hand Thorne the keys next year just because he's going to be a senior. You've got to, if we're going after this guy hard, to maybe flip him from Oregon. You got Hauser. You got to make it an open quarterbacks competition, because if Collins comes back, you got Berger and Collins, your running game is set. You probably, because they were on the senior day board, Michigan State's two true seniors on the line, minus Green and Carrick. You're playing in Samac. Love them or hate them, they're gonna be 5-year starters, and they come back. Okay, fine. Baldwin really good. Vandermark has potential. Brown's getting better. Like, and the receiver weapons. Okay, Reed's gone, but you got Bernard on top of Coleman. Mosley could come back. You got your only 9 seniors declared that they were gone. That doesn't mean some of these guys, that all of the guys that could will come back, but. Like, things have got to change next year, or it's going to be another middling year. And, middling would be one thing if you were 7-5 and at least made a, palatable bowl game. But you're looking at 5-7, and a huge disappointment, a huge flip from what Ryan and I predicted for the season for sure. But even when you see it, and with some of the games they lost, Indiana, Maryland, Minnesota, I get losing because Minnesota's a decent team, but we didn't show up for that game. Like, that's inexcusable, and it should have been easy for Michigan State to get 7 wins this year. It should have been easy.
You're going to layup.
And it's not. It's crazy. Ryan, I took a lot of that time there, so you go.
Yeah, real quick. Bright spots from that game, the run game. Berger, the last 4 weeks has been phenomenal. He's finally looks really comfortable. He's seeing holes. He's hitting them hard. He's running. He's power running. He's juking people out. He looks really good. I'm happy.
Doesn't have breakaway speed, but
no,
okay.
But he's quick.
Right.
He knows what he's doing. He looks very confident, which is great.
Yep.
Which is fantastic. Avery Dunn comes out of nowhere. Great. Brandon Baldwin, Gino Vandermark. I love to see those guys in there playing and getting some good run. I love it. I do love that Mangum and Spencer, those young guys, are getting in there. Those are the only bright spots to me. Peyton Thorne, the most mid quarterback I've ever seen.
Again, Chris, you were exactly right. You asked us who's the player that played well last year that had to prove themselves, and you said unequivocally Thorne, and you were exactly right.
He's not good. I mean, so average. He'll make some throws. You're like, wow, that's an NFL throw. Then he'll just make the most dumbass mistake. He just doesn't go through his progressions. He doesn't step into his passes. I feel like he checks out of a good place. When he should hand it off on an option, he keeps it and gets set tackled. When he should keep it, he hands it off. It's just like, what are you doing? Yeah. Makes stupid throws. I just don't.
Go play for Daddy at Western next year.
Seriously, it needs to be an open quarterback competition. You just say, you know what, Peyton, I get it. He's the bridge. He's not. Mel Tucker has no allegiance to this guy. He did not recruit him. Yeah, he's been the starter for 2 years, but.
Earned it, did a great job last year. I mean, we got to 11-2. A lot of that, obviously, K9. But kudos because PT used, he used that to his advantage. But I hate to admit it, I didn't want to admit it then, but we saw in the Peach Bowl the Peyton Thorne that we have now.
Yeah,
the guy
it's the same one.
The guy that can still like rise up and make a throw. You're like, wow, what? How? Like he did at the end of that game when we came back and beat Pitt. But for 3/4 of that game, he was dog shit. And for 3/4 of this season, he's been dog shit. So, ball don't lie. I mean, like, I'm sorry, PT. Great on you for one great season, but like this regression is a major regression for a guy that was he could have been one of the best starting quarterbacks in.
He
in
went
the
from looking like a potential mix of Connor Cook and Kirk Cousins and Lewerke with the legs to Tyler O'Connor 2.0. Mm-hmm. Just garbage.
Andrew Maxwell 2.0.
Yes, just not good. It's sad, but it's true. Jaden Reed. This is nothing to do with him, but it does because I feel like he did commanding the ball the other day. It looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He didn't look aggressive or anything when he'd get the ball. Jay Johnson has got to go. Someone show him the door. Should have been gone yesterday. This guy's trash. He's a low-rent garbage offensive coordinator. Would he be employed by anywhere else in the Big Ten? No. Frickin' Minnesota fired him after one season when he was there. He's awful.
He wouldn't be at Rutgers.
No. He is horrible at his job. You occasionally have a few
Look at how Indiana schemed with a third-string quarterback and after firing their offensive coordinator, I think, earlier in the season.
Yep.
I mean, like, you can't come up with something different.
No,
you can't
he
mix
doesn't.
it up.
He goes on this stupid play sheet. If I see...
Well, and as soon as we run one running play that works, we run it until it doesn't work. We don't ever change it up. There's no counters. There's no... It's like, it's always the same thing.
That's doing the correct thing. This guy sucks. 4th and 1, let's run a slow developing run play behind a line that's iffy. At best, great idea.
Okay in space, but not
great idea,
a
Jay.
grinder. Like,
really good.
Again, why not get your quarterback under center and put... I mean, for that matter, put Barker behind him and just shove him. Who cares if you break him? Shove him to a first down. Like, I mean, all you need is a little bit of a submarine dive and for PT to pick the right hole. And that, like, the quarterback sneak works 9 times out of 10. And compared to the plays Michigan State typically runs on 4th down, which work about 3 times out of 10.
Yeah, not even. Special teams, I can't... This guy, Ross Ells, should have been gone after last year. Last year, our special teams, aside
How
from
you
Barrington,
can't have a kicker.
A mess. The fact that you don't have a guy that can make 40 yards and in should be automatic in college. It should be. And this guy can't even make a 22-yard effing field goal. This is ridiculous. We had Coughlin. I'd love to have his 60% ass instead of our 2 out of 15 from 4 yards.
Granted, our long snapper's been hurt since early in the season, so clearly he's out for the season.
It wasn't his fault on him missing a 22-yard field goal.
But then in overtime, another bad snap appears, and like that. I'm sorry, you can say as coaches that's execution. Execution comes down to how your guys are coached. So you can blame your players all you want. I get it. You don't miss kicks. You don't miss snap bad snaps. But you coach the guys. It's your fault.
Bad special teams coverage again. It's happened time and time again. We've had so many penalties on special teams the last 2 or 3 years. It's ridiculous. Defensively, yeah, we're hurt, but still, why are we not stacking the box? They threw the ball. They completed 2 freaking passes.
Make them beat you through the air.
I do not get that.
I mean, make them beat you through the air. I don't understand that. Like, they had Henderson playing nickelback instead of safety, partially because he's a good tackler, and they knew they weren't going to pass, so stack the box and make them beat you through the air.
That's the right thing to do. We don't do the right things. Here's the thing. If Mel Tucker, I'm gonna come out and say this. This was John L. Smith-esque what went down this weekend. It was a whole bunch of screwed up.
Yep.
24-7 at half against a team that has lost 7 games in a row. They're on their 3rd string quarterback. You're trying to get to a bowl game on senior day, and you shit the bed.
32-7.
This is John L.
half.
Smith 2.0. It's the same thing. Blew it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the excuses. Well, we just did. Yeah, no, Mel. No shit. you didn't execute, and this falls at your feet because you're the damn coach of this team. This has happened time and time again. We got away with it last year because we had good enough weapons, could cover up sins with K9, and Reed was special because of that. I mean, he's a great receiver, but K9 made him better because he could have single coverage all the time, and people had to be aware of him. It's ridiculous. It's so maddening. If this guy, if he's serious about turning this program around and getting it back to where Antonio had it, from basically 10 to 15 and being a Big Ten contender every year, playing meaningful games at the end of the season, trying to get to a Rose Bowl, trying to get to a college football playoff. If he's serious, these three coordinators of offense, special teams, and defense need to be gone, or else he's not serious about it. But I don't know if it's like Mark. He wouldn't get rid of his buddies at the end when he should have. I don't think Mel has it in him. I think he might have it in him to get rid of one. Or say...
That's why I said 50% chance one goes.
Maybe one. But that's it. I don't think he has the balls. I don't think that he's... If he's serious, he's going to do that. Because otherwise, next year is going to be 6-6. And then you're like, he's on the hot seat. Then if the next year sucks, he's gone. And so you're out $95 million.
And I'm not even worried about that. Then you're set back for all this time, right? Because then all the guys, all the supposed good recruits he gets get transfer. So whatever. All right, we could go on a whole podcast about this. So let's move this.
Beautifully terrible.
Let's move to second down.
All right, second down. Week 13 preview. Let's just get right into it. Nebraska versus Iowa. Iowa 10.5 point favorite at home. Big Ten West title on the line. I'm going to say that they cover it. I think that Nebraska is just beaten down at this point, and Iowa has a lot to play for. I think their defense is going to fly all over the place, create some turnovers, really short fields for some field goals, and maybe a quarterback sneak touchdown.
Nebraska plays Iowa tough traditionally, even at Iowa. It's a Friday game, I think. It's always one of those Thanksgiving weekend Black Friday games. Look, I mean, Iowa just doesn't give up points. Nebraska doesn't score points. We've talked about it every podcast. They gave up 3, they gave up 10, they gave up 0, they gave up 10, they gave up 27, they gave up 9, they gave up 54 to Ohio State, they gave up 13, 3, 10, and 10 the last couple weeks. I don't know that they can score 20 points to win this game by 10.5. Is that what the spread did you say it was?
10.5.
I think this is like a 13-3 type of game. I don't think Iowa covers, but I do think that they win.
All right, we're differing. Rutgers, Maryland. Rutgers is a 14.5 point dog. This is at Maryland. Battle of the East Coasters.
This is all about bowl positioning for Maryland. I mean, it's a chance to get a 7th win, finally win in November because they're 0-3 in November.
I think Maryland's going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover.
What's
14.5.
Yeah,
I don't think they can.
14.5. Rutgers' season is over. Boy, but Rutgers, man, they can't really score. Maryland can score. I think Maryland's going to cover that. I think Maryland's going to run them.
All right. Illinois Northwestern.
Oh my gosh, I don't even care what the spread is. Illinois is going to cover
13.5.
Illinois will cover that.
All right, I have the same thing. All right, Wisconsin, Minnesota straight up at Wisconsin for Paul Bunyan's axe.
Wisconsin's tough at home this year. I mean, let's look at they're 1. They lost to Washington State at home, so they're 1-1. 2-1, 2-2 after the Illinois game at home where they got embarrassed and then fired their coach. I mean, the last couple home games they beat Purdue, they beat Maryland, they went on the road and laid an egg at Iowa, and then they barely beat Nebraska. I think Minnesota's a better team than Wisconsin, but it's senior day. Neither team has anything to play for at this point in time in terms of the Big Ten West Championship anyway. I'm just going to go with Wisconsin because I picked them at the beginning of the season to win this, but it would not surprise me to see Minnesota win.
Yeah, I'm going with the same thing. I said Wisconsin. I think that they end up.
I mean, it definitely enhances Minnesota's bowl positioning if they win because that would give them 8 wins.
Yeah, I think Wisconsin wins a close one. Indiana versus Purdue. It's at Purdue?
It's at Indiana.
Indiana.
Purdue has not really. Minus Illinois, they haven't played all that well lately.
That's what I think. I think they win like 24-14.
What's the spread?
or 11.5. I think it's like 24-14 Purdue. I just Purdue hasn't proved it.
Indiana's a little juiced because they finally broke the skid.
And it's a rivalry
week.
game.
You know, they haven't. I think Purdue's won like 5 in a row. Indiana had lost 7 in a row until they won in double overtime at Michigan State. Oh boy, I'll take Purdue to cover. Why not? Go for the gusto. I haven't won any bets in a long time, so
yeah, exactly.
Just try it here. I think I have like a 4-game lead on you anyway, right?
Yeah,
or something like that.
Probably more. There we go. The game. Michigan, Ohio State. We're going straight up because this is 2 versus 3, folks. Michigan, I don't know if Corum's going to play. I'm guessing he's going to. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Bruised knee, played 1 play in the second half, didn't look good. Who knows? You know, I mean, Ryan, you missed some games with a bruised knee from basketball.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling, and you're a running back. I'll tell you this: if Corum doesn't play, Michigan doesn't stand a chance because if they
can wear him down with them doing that.
Yeah, I mean he's a great running back and he's a difference maker. Even if he's 75%, he's a difference maker. We're going straight up. Ohio State wins this. I think Ohio State. I think it's going to be a close game anyway. It wouldn't surprise me if Michigan covers the 7.5 or so. To be honest, I think earlier in the season we were all hoping Ohio State would absolutely destroy them, but Ohio State's dinged up a little bit too. So. I just think the revenge factor is there. Funny how I saw, some quote from Harbaugh today about, we're not going to spew hate and we're not going to say anything. Oh, but you will against Michigan State, but you won't against Ohio State because you stole one last year and they'll smoke your ass. So
they're still pissed.
It's easy for you to spew hate against Michigan State when you were supposed to beat us this year.
Ohio State's still pissed.
Ohio State will win that game.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will. Michigan State, Penn State. For the greatest trophy in college football.
Penn State will cover
18.5
the spread, and it will mean Michigan State goes from, I believe, having every trophy
except for
minus Notre Dame.
Yep, to none of
them. To having none of them. The Spittoon, Paul, land grant,
Megaphone,
and the Megaphone all will be out of our possession this year after a year after having those, minus the Megaphone, which Notre Dame
completely agree. I think Penn State wins this thing going away.
Penn State's playing for a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah,
Michigan State.
It's going to be ugly.
And they just...
Penn State's Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, 200 yards rushing.
Yeah,
easily.
James Franklin can't beat typically Michigan State, or Ohio State. This is a chance to shut up his critics a little bit by beating a bad Michigan State team. That's how I look at it.
Yep. USC, Notre Dame. USC wins this. Probably... I mean, they're in
it's
at the Coliseum.
Yeah, that's right. If it's the last game of the year, it's at USC.
I'm going with the Trojans. I'm rooting for them because I want them to make the playoff because
Yeah, it'll be. I think it'll be a good game.
Good for the Big Ten.
It's a good rivalry game. I think that's a Saturday night.
Yep, 7:30 ABC.
7:30 ABC game. I think USC will win that game.
Yep, I agree.
And then it would not surprise me to see the Pac-12 pull a Pac-12 and have USC lose in the Pac-12 championship game.
That's true.
We'll get to that next week.
2 NFL games. Lions-Bills. We'll get to that. The Lions here in a minute, but 3-game win streak. Bills staying in Detroit. I think they win this thing. I think it'll be close-ish, 10 points or under, but I think the Bills are just
Bills are better than the Lions.
Bills are better. It's pretty plain and simple. The last one, Bengals versus Titans, big game in the AFC.
Is that Thursday night? Or is that a Sunday?
No, it's on Sunday. I'm going with the Bengals.
Bengals have been playing well lately. Titans had a nice win in Green Bay on Thursday, so they've had some time off, but yeah, I'll go with the Bengals in that too.
All right, that's week 13.
All right, before we get to third down, a quick word from our presenting sponsor. Team Anders Realty will help you find the home that best fits your needs, and they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients over 30-plus years in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com.
All right.
Now let's get to third down, which is where we really want to talk anyway, because it's basketball season. We have a game on right now, which Richmond was down 16-2 in early, and they're up 1 on Syracuse
Yep.
late. The Maui
East week.
Maui is back in Maui for the first time since 2019. You got the battle for the Atlantis. I mean, there's like hoops galore this week.
Yeah.
And so never mind what's going on this week. They got the PK that Michigan State's in. How about the week that Michigan State had last week, Ryan? So
Beautiful.
Getting 0 love on Tuesday night prior to the Kentucky game. 0 love. It was all about Sheedway coming back. No, justifiably so. That dude's really good. It was probably kind of seen as an aberration that Michigan State lost by 1 to Gonzaga. Oh, that was kind of, maybe they got a little bit lucky. Not one stitch of positivity in the promos going into that game from ESPN. During the game, not even when Michigan State would not let Kentucky go out on more. I think Kentucky was up 7 at one point. Never let it get away, even when they were behind. Chipped and clawed, scrapped and clawed, and showed me something for the rest of the season. No matter how the next couple weeks go, showed me a togetherness of a team that I have not seen since the COVID-shortened season in 2020. Like that type of team. As talented, maybe not, because we don't have a big man that's quite like Xavier to go with a point guard that's quite like Cassius, but Michigan State's got a lot of guys that can come up big, and in that game, my favorite whipping boy, Joey Hauser, made big shot after big shot. After he absolutely laid an egg on the ship out in San Diego, he played fantastic. Malik Hall played really well. Tyson Walker made big plays. AJ Hoggard was garbage in that game, but still, made a couple of decent plays, and we'll get to how he was then on Friday. Akins, you can see that he makes a difference, and you got to just give it to Matty. I mean, we talked about it after the Gonzaga game. He did it again against the 2 best bigs in college basketball, Sheedway and Timmy, and he battled them toe for toe, and I mean, he sealed the deal for Michigan State in the second overtime. He made good rebounds. He almost had a double-double. I think he was like 16 and 9 that game. You could see, like, Kentucky's supremely talented. Kentucky, no question, more talented than Michigan State. But the togetherness of that Michigan State team is going to carry them a long way. And that out-of-bounds play in overtime, to put it in second overtime, was unbelievable. Like, you can't draw up a better baseline out-of-bounds play than that. I mean, that special teams play was special. And people were talking about it left and right. Izzo out-coached a guy who routinely out-recruits him with guys who play defense. My buddies and I were talking about on tech. This is the first year in a while that I am not like sitting there going, okay, our offense is great, but our defense sucks, or vice versa. Like, this team can score when they need to. They get a little bogged down in the half court.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
I mean, every team does.
It all happened more so in the Big Ten, where everybody knows each other. I understand that, and it happens. But they got enough guys that can score, and a couple guys that want the ball in their hands at the end of the game, that I feel okay on offense. But the defense is what changes things for me, because even if, Kohler, who made huge strides between Gonzaga and Kentucky with just a few minutes, he came in and made a couple plays. If he can give you some time, and even if Cooper can give you a minute or two here or there just to give a guy a blow or keep guys out of foul trouble, I mean, like, Michigan State has some options to play good defense in that game.
Sure do.
With great guards as well. So
with no rim protection, nonetheless, honestly.
And then, I'll kind of throw my Villanova comments in there, and I'll let Ryan talk about both games. And then you go to the Villanova game, which was only disappointing in the fact that they blew the lead, which is very Michigan State. It was very Michigan State of us, but like, also credit to Villanova, right? Like Izzo said, that's the physically toughest team we'll play. They're bigs. That's the kind of team.
Dixon's a nice
That's
boy.
the kind of team that whose bigs are going to give Michigan State problem. Not a Dickinson, not guys, not like Edey even. And Edey because he's huge, but like those like traditional bigs, they don't scare me because we can defend them. I'm not worried about it. We got guards that can dig down. It's the guys that are a little bit too athletic they're strong and they can kind of bull by you, and they can put the ball on the floor as a stretch four. They can shoot. They can play back to the basket. They're a little bit quicker. Those are the teams that scare me. Fortunately, there's not a whole lot of teams like that in the Big Ten when it comes to Big Ten play. But so hats off to Villanova for coming back. But again, Michigan State, like A.J. Hoggard almost had a triple-double. and then until he puked on his shoes late with some stupid turnovers after he hadn't been doing it. Tyson Walker wanted the ball when it mattered. Would have been nice if he would have made the free throw to make it a 3-point lead instead of make us sweat it out, but whatever. Matty was a bit of a no-show, but again, matchup-wise, not his game. Joe's got to shoot the ball more. He only shot once in the second half after having an electric first half, but he wasn't a liability. Malik's got to stay out of foul trouble. He's been playing really well.
He played really well.
Akins, we hope, his foot, they x-rated it. It was
negative
bad foot that he
X-rays. That's good.
He's not practicing, but I think it's going to be okay. So we saw him, that thunderous left-hand tomahawk. That was like reminiscent of Darrell Summers meets Mo Ager meets Shannon Brown type of dunk, like Mo Pete. The last time I saw a left-handed dunk at that particular hoop in a key juncture of a game, I was there with B. Love in Michigan State's national championship season when Mo Pete did that against Ohio State's supreme shot blocker, whose name escapes me at this point in time, but like just threw it down in that the roof blew off the place, and it sounds like from Ryan's account because he was there, blew off there. So
yeah, it was.
Hey, look,
awesome.
in a 1 week stretch to go play in a boat in San Diego to play a Kentucky team nobody gave you a chance for, who was ranked number 4. So you played 2, you played 4, and you played Villanova, who wasn't ranked when we finally played them.
But a senior-laden team that's
been there is going to be
went to the Final
good.
Four last year.
Yeah, Final Four team from last year to go 2-1 against those teams, and you could have easily gone 3-0. Wow, that's like we are ahead of schedule, and I'm really, really happy. Now, this week remains to be seen. Like 3 games back to back to back. How does Akins hold up? How does Michigan State's not being as deep hold up? I don't expect much this week. Hopefully 2-1. But hey, look, we're ahead of schedule in terms. As far as
if you were to tell me we'd be 3-1 after 4, we've been ecstatic. That's where we're at. Great. Yeah, Joey, you can just tell he's got that confidence with his jump shot. He's moving different. Same with Tyson. These versions of these guys, if this is what keeps showing up, this is a team that can contend for a Big Ten title, a team that can contend for a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're going to take some losses, but this is the toughest schedule in America. This team could lose 10 games and still get a 4 or 5 seed. That's how damn good this schedule is and how tough and good this team is. And with the wins that they're going to end up getting, they'll take their lumps. The Big Ten, 6 teams ranked now. No one was giving the Big Ten a chance going into the season. 2 ranked teams, 6 now.
And one of them dropped out, Michigan.
Yeah. See, and Ohio State's getting votes. They're 27th. So there's 8 teams right there that are on the cusp of being ranked or being ranked. It's pretty phenomenal. Super happy with how Michigan State's played. Thus far. This week will be very telling. We'll see what happens. I think Bama's an interesting matchup for them. Hopefully, can get the dub. But love what I've seen so far. Hopefully, it continues. Izzo is rejuvenated, as we've said. Monty's rejuvenated. It's been great. It's been great. Akins, I think, played the best, game he's played in the Michigan State uniform. Both sides of the ball, played great defense. Moved the ball well, rebounded well, scored. Showed a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Would like to see more of that out of him. And just college basketball in general. North Carolina's kind of struggled thus far.
Gonzaga got their ass whipped at Texas, and then they absolutely smoked Kentucky.
Smoked them.
This is why college basketball is the best. Like Baylor was really good. They lost to Virginia, and then I think they beat UCLA.
Yep, and Illinois looked really good against UCLA. Terrence Shannon really good.
But then Virginia beat.
And then Virginia
Illinois.
won yesterday. That was an awesome game. But Illinois, they have players. I just don't know if they mesh really well together. It's just I don't know if Underwood's a great coach. Indiana, nice win over Xavier on the road. Credit to them for going there. They look like a good squad. Ohio State's looking good. The Sensabaugh kid, I'm telling you, he's going to be Malachi Branham 2.0 for him.
Michigan all talking shit after they beat a mediocre
Hunter
Pitt
Dickinson.
team.
We're going to beat Arizona State by 20, and then they're down 35 in the second half.
And we almost have a Wisconsin 2.0 situation because Howard, of course, is pressing with down 35 with a minute to go instead of, he's pulling a Schiano. instead of just
He's a
taking his
clone
pill
bag.
and then he gets takes exception in the handshake line to something that was said and whatever. It's like, you know what, dude, shut up. You and Harbaugh, go away. You're just the biggest babies in the world. And then they should have probably lost to Ohio. Off one of the craziest plays you'll ever see.
I mean, that was
at the end of the
ridiculous.
game.
Off the glass.
Do yourself a
miss.
favor and look for that one. You couldn't draw that up to happen again.
That was pretty
To
awesome.
put that game in overtime. Ohio had no business.
You know
being
who's
overtime.
my surprise team so far is Maryland. I thought they wouldn't be good.
Yeah, Maryland has looked
They
nice.
look really good so far.
Hey, they're well coached, right? They got Willard, who's a good coach.
You know, they'll lose in the first round of the tournament if they make it, but
Well, they don't have Turtle Boy Turgeon as coach anymore.
true.
so
But
maybe.
Willard always loses early. He
That was
did
a bad
that at
shot.
Seton Hall. Then we got Houston's playing well. I think they're one of the best teams in my opinion. They're a nice squad. Texas A&M. They went to Myrtle Beach,
Texas looked really
ranked.
good.
Went 1 and 2 out of the rankings. Texas, yeah, I like Chris Beard. I'm a fan.
He's a
of him.
great coach, and man, they play tough.
I'm a fan.
That place was electric against
New
Gonzaga.
arena, beautiful.
They got schooled in Spokane last year, and they absolutely trounced Gonzaga the other night. Cost me a 10-game parlay.
Maui today, Creighton, big win over Texas Tech, pulled away late. Arkansas smoked Louisville. Louisville's a dumpster fire. They're so bad.
They're on a major
0
rebuild.
and 4. Arkansas had 8
It was
possessions.
like a playground dunk
8
contest.
possessions in a row with a dunk. Finished with a dunk. That's pretty
It's
phenomenal.
disheartening. At least you're in
Yeah,
Hawaii.
Yeah, I
That's
guess.
about
At
the
least
only
they're in
bright
Maui.
side.
That's about all they have going for them right now. Anything else? I mean, nothing.
No, we'll get more and
crazy.
more into hoops starting next week, I would say. I mean,
Because Big Ten, you got the ACC Big Ten next week, and then the
we got to pick our teams
then
for the
college.
season.
Then
and-
Michigan State's got their first conference game a week from 2 weeks from yesterday.
yeah,
And it's Northwestern.
coming up quick.
Penn State's been surprisingly decent as well. Pickett, Lundy, this Andrew.
Iowa
Funk
looked good the other night at
Iowa's
Seton
good.
Hall.
Yeah, I forgot about them. Smoked Seton Hall. Big Ten won.
Murray 2.0 is just as good as maybe Murray 1.0.
Yeah,
So.
that's what they thought. The Big Ten won the Gavitt games. Saw Michigan State had the highest. Michigan State and Indiana had those two games had the highest viewership of any games ever in the Gavitt games, and Michigan State was the higher one. So that's cool. Ohio State's look good. Nebraska's awful. Minnesota's not good.
Minnesota just
Northwestern's
horses.
very average. Purdue's looked okay. They're playing. They beat Marquette, came back. I'm trying to think who else in the Big Ten. Rutgers, I think they lost. Who they lose to? Temple. Oh, they lost to Temple.
Lost Temple, who beat Villanova.
Yeah, but they're Rutgers is so Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, they are very Jekyll and Hyde.
I don't know.
Kind of an early season team that does that.
But we shall see. We're very, very, very early, and Feast Week is just getting started. Have that TV on. Hoops will be running all day. It started today through basically Sunday. So
Which moves us to the scramble, which I'm going to start with a question. Is this the best sports week of them all? Now, I know you have March Madness, and so
non-March Madness, it could be.
minus that, we'll say, except for opening week of March Madness, is this the best sports week of them all? You've got now 3 Thanksgiving NFL games. You've got Feast Week, so you've got basketball tournaments running from today through Sunday. You've got, a lot of, like, your part 2 of rivalry week for college football. And it's conference clashes coming to a close to determine who's going to be alive in the playoffs and stuff. Is there a better sports week?
Aside from March Madness, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think this is.
This is the pinnacle of sports weeks.
Great.
From Monday to Sunday in a time frame, there's not a better week minus
Really good.
sort of March Madness.
Really good. NFL, Packers stink.
Lions first 3.
The Lions were the only team in the NFC North to win this week. First 3-game win streak since 2017. Delicious.
Yeah, the Vikings, holy cow, they got absolutely curb stomped.
Primetime Kirk.
Somebody at work was saying that too. You can't blame that on him. Here's the thing. Parsons is like unparalleled as a defender, and Minnesota could not keep him off of Cousins. And hey, look, Dallas blew a 14-point fourth quarter lead for the first time in 196 games last week against Green Bay. Maybe had they won that game, this would have been a different story. They just blitzed them, and sometimes you just get blitzed out of the gate. Sometimes you're just like, you know what? That ain't our day. It happens in basketball. It happens in tennis. It happens like in every sport, and that happened. The good news is in the NFL, it doesn't really hurt them. They're the 2 seed still pretty solidly anyway at this point in time. Philly barely beat the Colts to maintain, a 1-loss record. So I think the NFC is a mess though, because your 4th seed is Tampa at 5-5, and then the Lions have crept back in, first 3-game winning streak since 2017. They're actually in the graphic for having a playoff chance. That's not going to last for very long, but
you know what?
Here's a hodgepodge or a scramble that I missed in our first section. Saturday was the first time in the Big Ten has had 4 conference games with neither team reaching 20 points since October 26th of 1963.
Nice.
That was crazy.
That is crazy. What else in the NFL? The Chiefs comeback win again. Kelsey, unbelievable.
Three touchdowns again?
Yeah, he's just...
One of these weeks I'm going to get smart and not bet anybody else for the Chiefs to be an anytime touchdown scorer and just call for him to have 2+, because the odds are, the odds aren't great, although his odds are going to be...
He's really good.
He's special.
The Raiders finally won.
In overtime.
The awful Broncos. Oh,
yeah,
so bad.
They are bad. Let's
so
see.
bad. J-Mo is coming back for the Lions practice today. Not going to play this week, but targeting against Jacksonville, that'd be pretty cool. See him out there.
Patrick Reed's lawsuit was tossed out. No surprise. Defamation lawsuit for a ridiculous amount of money. No, Patrick, you caused the defamation yourself by being an ass bag. All right, so I got another one for you. I know you may have your hot seats and so on and so forth, but bowl debate. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. I brought this up with my friends. So I saw an article today that said, don't fret, Michigan State fans, just because you absolutely choked on applesauce against Indiana and blew your 6th win that would have guaranteed bowl eligibility, there's still a good chance you're going to make a bowl game. So, of course, that's a long summation of what the headline said. The headline was much shorter than that. So I'm like, all right, I'm intrigued. I'll read it. Now, we've talked a lot on this podcast off and on about how there's too many freaking bowl games. There are 41 bowl games, meaning there have to be 82 teams that are 6 wins or more to qualify, right? Here's the problem. There are currently 9 teams or 9 spots left. So there are short 9 6-win teams. This weekend, there's one game that's, I think, 2 5-6 teams playing each other. It's a MAC, like Miami against somebody in the MAC. One of them's guaranteed to get 6. Okay, so that's still going to leave 8. Now, there are about 8 teams, Michigan State included, that are currently 5-6 that could win this week to get to 6-6. But in all 8 of those games, all 8 of those teams are pretty significant underdogs. We're talking like Georgia Tech against Georgia, Michigan State against Penn State, Auburn against Alabama, and there's some other ones in there. So there's a very good chance they're predicting that probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6, maybe as good as only 5 and 7 teams are going to make bowl games this year. And if only 4, 5, and 7 teams make bowl games, guess who's going to be one of them? Michigan State, because Michigan State's APR is number 4 out of all the teams that would be eligible for that. Crazy. Meaning it comes down to academics. So the debate I was having with my buddies is, and I wasn't saying that they, gladly accept it, but the debate is, should you accept it or turn it down? And I say whether you should or shouldn't, it's 15 extra practices for your young guys. I don't care what the optics look like, because any game out of the New Year's 6 is really, quite frankly, crap anyway, minus maybe like the Citrus Bowl and maybe like the Outback Bowl and maybe, 1 or 2 others like that. Like, in my mind, there are about 8 to 10 good bowl games, and the rest of them may as well not even be played, to be completely honest.
You want to hear my honest
opinion? So, yeah, what's your honest opinion?
I equate this to training a puppy and urinating in the house and giving it a treat.
That's a great analogy. Look, I'm not disagreeing that it looks like piss on the carpet. I'm not going to disagree with that. But how do you, as Michigan State, say no when you know you need the practice? When you know you need, Like that could help you. Like
definitely would help.
Here's the solution. ESPN, quit freaking coming up with new bowl games. Why do 82 of 132 Division I teams need to qualify for a bowl? Here's my new rule. If you're not 7-5, you're not going to a bowl game. And if that means that we have to have I'm sorry, bowls 35 through 41, but the 9,000 people that were going to go to each of your games, you're just going to have to eat their tickets, and they're not going to, cancel those games. Get to a point where either you don't have as many bowl games or you can retract bowl games, because if teams aren't with a winning record, I would argue not even 6-6. Like back in the day, okay, when most teams played 11, some teams played 12. Okay, fine, 6-6. I can but no. Have less bowls and have only teams with winning records qualify. Period. And then be able to retract a couple of the dog piss, as Ryan would say, games, so that you don't have a problem with teams with losing records making games. That's it's a bigger issue to me than whether or not to take it. Hey, Rutgers, theirs was a COVID situation, but they played last year 5-7 or something like that, a bowl game. I don't think it looks good, but I think that's more of a failure of the system than it's a failure of a program or a school.
Well, they played last year because of some COVID.
Yeah, it was COVID. It wasn't, but still, they were 5-7, right? And when you have legit as many as 8 5-7 teams could make bowl games this year, that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem, and that's not a Michigan State problem. That's an NCAA. That's a college football. That's an ESPN because they own the majority of the bowls. It's their problem. That's the bigger problem. So
I completely
I don't
agree.
know. Did you have any butt burners or anything like that for this
Yeah,
year?
I did. Butt burners. Zach Wilson. He's about to get benched. They 2 yards of offense.
Stick to the MILFs
in the second half.
Jeez.
2 yards, 0.004 yards per play. Or something like that. Loss of punt return. It's hilarious. Todd Downing, offensive coordinator of the Titans. They win Thursday night. Gets arrested when they get back for a DUI. What are you doing, man? Idiot. John Calipari. This guy's a clown. He can't
recruit,
coach.
but he can't coach, apparently.
I mean, there's a really good article on The Athletic, which you're getting rid of, but I'm reading it until it's over, because some of the articles are actually good, and it was Kyle Tucker, who used to write, I think, for Michigan State a little bit. He wrote a really good article about Calipari and about him and his excuses, and it's a wreck. Oscar Sheway admitting, we don't run what he tells us to run. What?
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay.
Can you imagine that at Michigan State?
Oh, dear God.
Oh, my gosh. That would not fly.
Stock up. Virginia basketball, they're back. Last year they were not good. They lost in the first round during COVID, and then they, obviously, 2020, there wasn't a tournament, then won the national championship the year before that. They look really good. Tony Bennett's got the squad looking really good. Love to see that because I'm a fan of them. I like the way they play. It's kind of boring, but he's a really good coach, and they play really hard. Rory and John Rahm. These guys, I think Rahm won the tournament. Rory ended up winning like the DP Euro, whatever, like the FedEx Cup version for that. Phenomenal. Two of the biggest names in golf, and they were going at Live again. I love that. Super happy for them. Hoping next year will be a big year for both of them. Hopefully get a major out of both of them. Would love that. Then another one, last one, stock up. Brent Key, interim coach for Georgia Tech. Really hard place to win. He's 4-3 as the interim. Phenomenal after what they kind of gone through the last few years. Hopefully he gets a look at the job. I doubt he will, but good for him. It's awesome. Svensson won the RSM. We got a week off. Then they got 2 more tournaments. And then the Christmas break. Then they start the Hawaii
Kapalua,
which is awesome. That's all I got in that section. I guess we'll go sprint. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Will you watch any of the World Cup?
No.
I agree. I will not. I don't like soccer. It's boring, and I don't care.
I checked at one point today, I will say, just to see if the U.S. was choking against Wales, and just happened to, like, the feed came up on my phone, so that, like, the video came up on my phone. I was just intending to check the score, and I saw Pulisic or whatever, the U.S.'s supposed best player that I see in the promos, you know, go down in typical soccer player style, and his team is needing him, and he's just, like, laying there. And I watched it to watch him lay there and fake an injury to finally get up. Like, you weren't getting the call, dude. That's why I can't take soccer seriously. So, sorry for the soccer fans out there. I ain't watching it.
No, me either. We had this. I brought this question up to you the other day, but let's do it on here because I didn't get a definitive answer. What do you think you would shoot if a professional golfer hit all of your tee shots?
Well, I still can't hit enough greens in regulation,
No.
but I mean, I think I could break 80 probably more often. I probably would still shoot low. I mean, I've driven the ball pretty well the last couple of years. My approach game is all over the place. So if it was the other way around, I would say I could shoot in the 70s all the time if they were hitting my approach shots. Because I'd be okay with my putting and I would be fine with my driving. But driving, we'll say I would routinely shoot like 80 to 82.
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably say low 80s consistent.
I mean, because they're going to bomb it, right? Like my good drives, like with the wind downhill, might go like 275. In that situation, theirs are going to go like close to driving a lot of the greens that we play. So it's probably going to be pretty helpful. But
yeah. Who is the best shot blocker you have seen for Michigan State in your lifetime?
Oh man, that's a good question. Michigan State's had a lot of good shot blockers. I mean, Xavier was really good. I think he's at the top, right? Like Bingham, that's right. He was good because he was just so long. Jaron Jackson, I mean, Deonta Davis was really good in a year that he played or so. Drew Namick actually was a really good shot blocker.
The leading shot
so
blocker.
The thing is like you have shot blockers that I'll say that are like the ones that are the oh wow shot blockers that like toss it across the gym and they like volleyball spike it and they get your attention. But to me, the best shot blockers are like you used to be, right? Just time it up perfectly. You can really block a shot with either hand. You're not swatting at the ball, and you can bounce right back up. Like I remember a game your senior year in high school against Godwin Heights where we still have it on film, where you got up, blocked a shot, guy got the rebound, went back, another guy got it, and you sprung right back up. Like to me, that's the measure of a great shot blocker. So to me, like a Namick and a Xavier, I think are better that way because they're not the super athletic; they're just the smart shot blockers. So give me a smart shot blocker.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say Jaron. He was.
Jaron was a pretty good eraser.
He was really good. If he just come and help, and that ball is probably going back in your face. If he had stayed 2 years, I think he would be the all-time leading.
Probably
shot
would
blocker.
be. You're right.
He set the single season record. I know that. Best Thanksgiving side dish.
Oh man, not green bean casserole. Honestly, for me, is like Mom's vegetable medley. Like it's a casserole type thing. It's broccoli, carrots, cauliflower. Like it's all gratin vegetables, right? So there's cheese and whatever. Like to me, and reheated, that's really good. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite. I mean,
yeah, that's what I said as well.
Or if she makes, which she doesn't always make it for Thanksgiving, but the cream or the cream corn recipe from Chop House, which is like really spicy. It's got the jalapenos. That's pretty damn fire too.
Yeah, that's really good too. I said the same thing. The medley. That's it. 99 down. We'll be in triple digits next week. Crazy. Appreciate you guys listening. Pound that like button. Leave us a comment if you want. If there's anything you want us to touch on, basketball, football-wise, please let us know. We'll try to do that. Hope everyone has a great, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy time with your family. Watch some good sports.
Eat a lot of food. Take a lot of naps.
Yep.
We gave you a nice long podcast to listen to kill time on your drive to Grandma and Grandpa's house or whatever. Again, shout out to Team Anders Realtors, Jim and Donna and their family for being just great people and fantastic realtors here in the West Michigan area. Look them up at teamanders.com. And meantime, on this week of Thanksgiving, as Charlie Brown once said, what if today we were just grateful for everything?